And for the right reason. Take a look.
I'm a big believer in just new leadership, significant change. The old models do not work for people, and that includes in the Democratic Party.
When you say new leadership, what do you mean by that? It's not, you're not just talking about Trump being out of office. You're talking about new leadership within the Democratic Party as well, are you not?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think since Biden was in, like, we need new leadership in the White House, the House, and the Senate, and on both sides of the aisle. That includes Democrats.
All right, here with his take, ESPN host, our friend Stephen A. Smith. All right, Stephen A., so we start with Graham Plattner, the Nazi tattoo guy. Then we go to El Sayed, who campaigns with Hassan Piker, who blamed America for 9/11. Then you get six-gender Tellerico in Texas. But then you got Bernie Sanders, Pocahontas, Mamdani, the Squad, AOC, all of these candidates. I want to read something to you, if you don't mind, and then I'm going to give you the floor.
Gotcha.
Because this is your party, Stephen A.
Here we go.
This is a woman just elected wants the government to seize the means of production, all private property, people's homes, wants all police abolished, wants to abolish America's prisons and borders, doesn't want anyone deported, not even criminal illegals convicted of rape and murder. After October 7th, the next day, she's at a pro-Hamas rally in Times Square. I could keep going. And here's the worst part, Stephen A., is there's not one Democrat, but for John Fetterman, not one, that is willing to take on these radical views of your party. That's your party.
Listen, bottom line is this. First of all, you know, I don't find that stuff acceptable. I'm not a supporter of that, no question about it. But let's be real about something here. You have a whole bunch of people in office that's scared to lose their seats, and you've got Democratic voters that are leaning towards voting for these people. And so as a result, they got to figure out a way to get those people back on their side. They're not going to vote Republican. They're going to vote Democrat. But if Mamdani is running as a Democrat, even though he's a Democratic socialist, and he's preaching about affordability, okay, and the working class, that's something that they want to hear because they're the ones that feel left out right now. And so that's what the message is, whether it's him or the people that he endorses. Remember, the people that Hakeem Jeffries endorsed lost to the people that Mamdani endorsed. So obviously he's gaining traction. His profile, his cachet, his significance is growing, and nobody can ignore that. So as a result, how are you going to deal with that? He's 35 years of age. He puts his feet on the ground. He pounds the pavement. He knocks door to door. He's letting the working class know he's thinking about them, even though it ain't necessarily the working class that voted for the candidates that he wanted to.
Ducking, though.
I'm not ducking. I'm not ducking.
You're
not
ducking.
at all. I'm answering your question. Go ahead.
Okay. They want to take away the means of production, private property, private home ownership. They want no police. They want no borders. Even illegals convicted of. Well,
she said
no,
that.
Even
Mamdani was talking about. He was talking about. Listen, he's not against capitalism, but in the same breath, so you know, strong social welfare programs, stuff like that. That's what he's alluded to. Okay, that's not communism.
That's not
communism
what he's
and socialism
saying.
Is different, though.
He is saying he wants free buses. He wants the right to confiscate people's property and have rent control for people that can't afford it. Right. So, okay. Right. What part of this does Stephen A., the capitalist that I know, support?
I don't support any of it. I'll tell him to his face. I'm still waiting for him to come on my show so I can tell him to his face. I don't support it. But see, the difference is that when people come on and talk about with Sean, the ultimate leading the witness guy. This is what he does, Sean Hannity. He leads the witness by answering questions that he asks before you get a chance to answer it. I'm a guy that's a little bit different. While I sit here and I abhor what I'm hearing from a socialist perspective on the extreme left, I don't like it one bit. The flip side to it is that I also happen to know that even though some of the other Democrats are a bit spineless and they need to stand up and be a bit stronger, in the same breath, I'm also looking at an administration that ain't innocent Abe's in all of this either.
Okay.
You know, they got something to do with this
Trump.
too. Well,
We're not talking about Trump.
Well, they turned off by it. No. They're turned off by what they're saying, and they're leaning in that direction.
What we are talking about is the complete takeover of your party.
Okay.
And it's taken over by defund, dismantle, no bail. It's taken over by people that want to confiscate wealth.
Okay.
It's people that want the means of production. They want open borders. They don't even want prisons. They don't want police. They don't want any of it. Here's the worst part.
Okay.
no prominent Democrat, but for you and John Fetterman, will
Who I was with
criticize
this
it.
morning, by the way. I was just with John Fetterman this morning, but that's a different story for another day. We were both coming back from the Mark Twain Awards at the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C., where I was a presenter for that, by the way. But here's the deal. When you look at the Democratic Party right now, you're right in pointing out what you're pointing out. Somebody's got to stand up and fight. They don't seem to have the sizzle, the cachet, the ability to communicate with the voters the way Mamdani does right
Where
now.
are they? Who are they?
Again, I don't know who they are. I don't know who they are. I mean, I'm going to be quite honest with you. I'll be the first to admit it. No wonder they've been talking about me because, damn it, you don't see anybody. I'm looking for somebody within the Democratic Party to step up
And what
to
does that
galvanize
say?
the troops.
What does that say about Chuck Schumer? What does that say about Hakeem
Well, he's in
Jeffries?
his
What does that
70s,
say about the
he's
Clintons?
Listen. First of all, you're talking about people who have been around quite a long time. And when you're looking at California and you're looking at New York specifically, as we're talking about this, there's a lot of young voters out there. Anything, you know how to get them all? Talk about free. Free rent. Free grocery stores, free buses, damn it, free child care. You know, they'll buy it all. What kid you know wants to pay bills? We've got kids. Were they happy about having to pay bills? They're never happy about having to pay bills. When you talk about free, that's when they gravitate to you because, damn it, daddy and mommy will pay for it and not us.
Give me one
the answer to that
example in the
question.
history. Give me one example in the history of the Democratic Party, because I'm arguing that this is a game changer midterm election. These are uncharted waters. We've never had a party that has gone this hard left with a bunch, I would argue, of moral cowards that, quote, are in leadership that won't even challenge a guy with a Nazi tattoo, a guy that campaigns with Hassan Piker, who said America deserved 9/11, a guy that thinks there's 6 genders, a guy that thinks God is non-binary.
Sean,
that's your party.
If you think, excuse my language, if you think your life sucks, you're going to want to try something different. Half these folks that vote for these folks don't even realize what they're doing. What they're saying is, we got to try something new because we don't like what we're seeing. When you got a nation $39 trillion in debt, when you got a labor participation rate at about 61.8%, when you sit up there and you look at, even though the unemployment rate is at 4.3%, the bottom line is you're looking at the state of affairs and affordability issues with the working class. And people believe that they've been ignored by numerous administrations. Somebody comes along and they're speaking something different. You're going to gravitate to that because you're going to do what Trump did in 2015 when he said, what else do you have to lose? That's the attitude that you're seeing from young voters out here, and that's why they're doing it.
Let's vote for a guy that wears a Nazi tattoo
I didn't say that.
that attacks women that are victims of sexual assault.
First of all, I didn't say that.
Let's vote for a guy that thinks God is non-binary and there are 6 genders, not 2.
And you know I'm against that. But the flip side to it, Sean, is this. When it comes to young people, how many times do we find ourselves talking to them and saying, damn it, they just don't get it. But eventually they will. That's the situation that's existing right now in politics. It's unavoidable. The level of disgust has resonated that profoundly. It's just the truth.
But they're the ones that are winning the primary. They're the ones that's going to be on the ballot. Do you think Graham Plattner can win in Maine? Do you think Tellerico can win in Texas? Do you think El Sayed, when people...
No.
I don't think they can win either.
I don't think they're going to win. I don't think they're going to win in those states, but I think in New York and California they can.
Where are people like Chuck Schumer? Chuck Schumer is supposed to be a leader. Where's Hakeem Jeffries? Do they care more about their power as minority leader than they do?
I think you're being unfair to them in this regard. You are
unfair
who
to
you
Chuck?
are. I'm getting ready to explain. You are who you are in terms of your communication. Sean, guess what? You're not what you were in your 30s or your 20s. And when you get to your 70s, late 70s and 80s, you ain't going to be what you are now. Come on, man. The guy's not a young spring chicken out here. He can sit up there and raise some funds for you. He can politic, he can campaign, but the bottom line is he's not as strong as he used to be as a communicator. That happens. You need new blood. We all get that. You just don't need that.
I'm going to make a prediction. And I will put money down on this prediction. If this party continues to go that radical, you will be joining me and supporting my candidates. How do you like that?
You know what, Sean? I might not support anybody just because you are. I mean, you know me. I go the opposite direction of you all day, any day. You know what I mean? Nobody turns me off from the GOP more than you.
but you can't stop watching. But that's why I love you. Stephen A., we love you. Appreciate it. All right, coming up, America 2. All right, thanks for watching. Check out my new podcast, Hanging Out with Me, Sean Hannity. The big interviews, the debates you won't get anywhere else. Like and subscribe for new episodes every Tuesday and Thursday.